and I think ready to go now. So, hello everybody. I am Chris Moriarty Marks, joined once again by this esteemed panel of, I guess we'll call them
Yeah,
coaches. But
sure.
joining me today, we've got Caleb the Seagull Gulley,
Without a hat.
without a hat for once,
Yeah,
magic.
it's yeah.
We've got Ali, HipsterBrownKid Sheikh. I'll let you guess which one that is. And Jakob, Jookeb Rich.
I'm the one with the hat.
He's the other one with the hat. He doesn't know that I have a hat on.
No,
Nice.
I'm the one with the hat.
So, in this video, we are going to be taking an in-depth look at the playoffs for this coming season, some of our thoughts on how we expect that to play out, some of the things we're looking forward to, touching back on the season a little bit as we go. But the first thing that I want to get us talking about is taking a look at this bracket here. This is the least confident I have ever been in trying to predict what will happen during the first round of the playoffs. Lots of really competitive matchups, lots of people meeting for the third time this season, which always presents some difficulties. So, gentlemen, I want to come to you on your thoughts on just everything going on with that statement, this first round being so difficult to call.
Who wants to take it first?
I guess I'll go ahead and
Do
start
it.
us off a little bit. To touch on a couple of the points that Chris had said, some of us are meeting for the third time this season, Ali and myself, namely. This is going to be a really tough one to prepare for. I mean, the mind games are kind of just already going out of control here, for my side at least. I don't know. I don't want to speak for you, Ali, but looking at Toronto and Jersey as well, like that's always kind of a toss-up just historically. Jersey can always pull out some crazy stuff and really just get under Toronto's skin. Memphis versus Chapel Hill, it's been kind of a little bit one-sided so far this year, but still have the Zacian and Zapdos and Urshifu can still easily do some crazy stuff. And West Texas versus Quagsire, once again, has been one-sided so far this year, but still think Ham could easily just turn around and pull out a little bit of an upset.
We've seen it in
Calyrex
practice.
exists. Yeah,
Calyrex
no,
exists.
practice this night tonight was a little rough. But one of the things that's really interesting about these playoff matchups, Chapel Hill plays Memphis. Those are the 4 and 5 seeds. Those guys played in week 10. So we get to literally, they just played a best of 3. Now they get to play a best of 5. And it's the third time they're playing this season, like we already mentioned. So it's going to be hard figuring out what you can come up with that hasn't already probably been tried and tested. And it's more almost about how you pilot the team. And you can say the exact same thing about how the Charlotte Charizards and Nashville Ninetales, they played in week 10 as well. And it's the same deal. They've had a very close series. Actually, both have been very close in their own ways. And going from best of 3 where you just prepared to play to win, now you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I win a best of 5 with something that's going to be maybe to catch them off guard. All 4 of these matchups is the third time everybody's played each other. So, but those two literally been a week ago. It makes it really difficult, I think, to prep, and it makes it really difficult to win. And it's going to be interesting to see how they adapt, how they figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this is like, did these matchups become stale? Because, I mean, we've all played each other twice, or all of these matchups, and this is literally just a repeat of Week 10. All the same matchups, same teams. So it's like, in 1 week when there were no roster moves available, can people come up with something new, or are they gonna run it back with what they had the last week or what they had earlier in the season? And so it's just gonna be like who properly adapted to the matchup and who can actually make it through that best of 5.
Well, it's
Yeah.
something that, or you can go ahead, Chris, if you want.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
All right. One of the things that Ollie, you're talking about adapting in a series. A lot of these first matchups in these 3-game sets essentially were played early in the season, and we've had a lot of free agency moves since then. So it's going to be figuring out. This is the second time somebody's seeing the same roster in a row. So maybe you came up with you realize, hey, I thought this worked. It doesn't work. Now I got this new idea, and really, it's kind of a do or die situation. So there's a lot more pressure on the line. So seeing how people adapt and handle that pressure, I think is really, really important. And it's the only way you're able to make it through the playoffs is be able to handle the best of 5. Winning 2 games is hard. Winning 3 games is even harder. You got to literally bring your A game and hope that your prep's on point. Otherwise, it's really, really hard to win. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very true.
And with a lot of these matchups in particular, I think what we've really seen kind of develop throughout this season is there are some matchups that are very much just who brought which 6 and how do they match up versus each other. And so I think, especially with having just seen what your opponent plans to bring against you, it gives you this kind of mind game of, okay, do I adapt or do I anticipate how he's going to adapt, or are we both going to adapt and see who shows up ready to do what? So I think there's a whole lot of mind games and a whole bunch of very deep layers going into just this first round of playoffs, which is super exciting for the games we're going to get to see coming out of it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we're playing 5 games. Makes it a lot easier for people to kind of figure it out, come up with a game plan, and hopefully, move on. The best teams should move on for the matchup specifically on who prepared better. The better player will move on who is ready for the playoffs. But kind of talking about this, moving on a little bit, is we're talking about these series being extremely close. This has also been one of the closest seasons we've ever had. And looking at the banners that you have, we got several teams with 4 wins, several teams with 5 wins. The point spread for most of these teams, we have 6 out of 8 over 10. They're all like within a couple games or a couple points of each other. So it's been really fun to watch, and the differentials have been extremely close across the board. 5 out of the top 6, all positive. Says a lot to how competitive this season has been.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think a lot has gone into everything being so competitive. I think early on in the season, it kind of felt a little bit just like the restricteds were super dominant and the big restricteds were taking over things. And then we saw right after like the first couple of weeks that people evolving and using their tier 1s and tier 2s better. And even some of the tier 3s were coming up with some creative stuff that was really causing problems for these teams that were so reliant on their restricteds. And now we've sort of seen that evolve again into like, yes, but my restricted's still a problem, and now I'm ready for your bullshit. So it's kind of this weird thing where part of what's kept everything so close is that there's been this almost kind of clear evolution within the league as it's gone on. And some teams were ready to push that envelope and be the ones adapting to that next stage of the evolution, and other teams fell behind the curve, and those weren't always the same teams every time. So I think this season's been pretty cool in that aspect, but it's definitely made things close, and these points, I think the point totals tell the story the best for me in how close the season really was.
Yeah, I definitely completely agree. I mean, it's definitely just been kind of really cool to just watch how this whole season has just unfolded, because it's been, like everyone's saying, it's been just such a close season and such a fun evolution to watch through not only just how we've been playing the specific matchups, but also like free agency moves and all the little roster pieces that we've been trying to adjust and like try and put in different spots. Like maybe it could be supportive, and we've been trying to try it out as some more damage, and maybe it helps out with a different matchup. Just kind of cool little adaptations that really just go through everything, it looks like. But one of the things I wanted to do was actually take a step back and kind of look at the regular season just a little bit and go over maybe what y'all thought were some of the really cool different strategies, or maybe some of the different move sets that we had seen come throughout the league. Like one of my personal favorites was getting to see the physical Alecki come out on the West Texas Wingles. But
that was a fun one.
Go ahead.
A lot of that is keep the team dynamic. It has a base 200 attack stat in both stats, so let's not limit ourselves to one of them. Was a lot of the inspiration there, but like something else that we've seen, and this didn't. I feel like I started it, and everybody else said, "Hey, I got a Pokemon that can do this," and have all won a series off of it, or at least picked up a game. Is Iron Defense Body Press. I think it's the most we've seen that's happened this season. Skarmory literally 1v4'd using it. Bronzong did it twice. Turtonator's done it. Ali, have you had a? I feel like you've had somebody done it. You've done it before in the past. I feel like
Not this season, but
yeah, like we've known of this strat, but like this is the most I think we've had like solo carry walls that have been able to literally put the team on their back, pick up the game win, and like when we've done this VGC draft league, that rarely happens. So the fact that it's happened multiple times is kind of interesting and just shows how people are moving more maybe a defensive play style, which I feel like is really hard to do, especially in a doubles format.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of that derives from just the restricteds, right? So many of these restricteds being physical threats and things like that, and most of the teams building pretty heavily and consistently around their restricteds really incentivizes strats like the Calm Mind Tapu Fini that we've seen, or the Iron Defenses, where it's like, hey, I know a whole lot of your strategy is centered around you having this motherfucker go crazy.
Yep.
And it's just, this says no. What do you do about it? And a lot of times it's worked, and sometimes they've said, I push this button, and then you go, oh, yep, that worked. So
you boosted that stat, will just hit you on the other one.
Yep. Glares at Altaria, but
yeah.
But Ali, what about you?
I mean, honestly, the Iron Defense Body Press is exactly what I was thinking. Just seeing it show up once from the Bronzong, and then every other team trying to do it, trying to kind of get a little bit of that success for themselves. And I mean, people are trying to like center their teams around that one restricted Pokemon. But they've kind of moved that play style to some other carries on the team. Like you said, that Calm Mind Tapu Fini kind of going crazy. The house strats with the physical Lecky. There was my Zygarde at the beginning of the season where I just kind of stacked it up until you couldn't deal with it anymore. It's like it's nice to see people putting their focus on the other Pokemon and trying to make them a carry as well.
I mean, Dragapult got used 21 times this season. That's from tier 1. I mean, that's all you, Jacob. But I mean,
it has
the most used
earned
Pokemon.
its keep this season, baby.
We're gonna talk about Pokemon boosting for the win. I think we've got to talk about what happened in week 10. Mewtwo had to go to +6 to pick it up against the Corsola against Jersey City, which was horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
That Amnesia was going absolutely crazy, and so
that was so good.
Yeah, the restricteds are getting to do a little bit of it. We know that. Yeah,
that's the cool part. Is like it hasn't been limited to the restricteds popping off. I mean, most of the KO leaders are the restricteds this season, but like Bronzong had 15 KOs. Like what the hell?
Rhydon is the second in KOs for Memphis.
Yeah,
Fun
and
fact.
that's a tier 4.
So second only to Zacian.
Yep.
Second only to Zacian, true.
Which is
it's nuts.
The restricted. So yeah, I think
it's number 1 pick of the draft.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
Oh,
agree.
So many good things. Seems like.
Yeah. So since we're, sorry, did I cut you off?
No, you did not.
Okay. But yeah, since we're like going back and looking back at the regular season, what I wanted to bring up was there were a lot of Pokemon picked this season. Got 8 teams with teams of 13, not even looking at the amount of free agency moves made.
Which was a record.
Yeah, Chris, you took advantage of every single one.
No, I missed out on 1 week.
Okay,
so 1 or 2 weeks
10,
I skipped out
10
on.
out of 12, 10 out of 14.
10 out of 14, I think.
Basically a whole new roster.
Yeah, made yourself a whole new team week by week. I mean, this is the first time we've seen this many Pokemon be used, whether it be the unique picks that we haven't seen in previous seasons or other people's comfort picks going to other teams.
Those have moved around a lot too, and like also things that were franchised. Moving on, we're talking about Galarian Moltres. We had Urshifu move on from its team.
Yeah.
So
Tapu
people wanted
Fini?
to make Tapu Fini. I
Tapu
love
Fini.
Tapu Fini, and I didn't even get to touch it this season. Didn't even draft it, which is nuts. I took Regieleki instead, and that was a fun experiment. But like the willingness that people were like, hey, this isn't working, I want to try something else, I think was the open-mindedness along, like, hey, let's try this, let's do this. If it doesn't work, cool, we got 2 more moves we can make next week. Chris literally made a whole new roster. I picked up 3. I mean, and then there were several good trades too, like Chapel Hill making a trade with Memphis, and Memphis, they traded twice this season, and within their own division, that rarely ever happens. And now they get to see who had the better end of the trade round 1 of the playoffs.
Yo,
Get to see that play out firsthand.
But I
Jacob,
guess,
you next.
yeah, you go ahead. You got anything on that, Jacob, before we move on?
I mean, it's been a wild season for the amount of free agency moves that we've seen, and also trades. I don't know if it's been a record for trades, but we don't see a ton of trades usually throughout the seasons. But I mean, it's just
Maybe
been really
1 or 2.
cool. Yeah, it's just been really cool to see everything evolve, and how the teams have grown and all that. But it's just, I think it's more fun to try and strategize against them whenever you're actually in the moment with it. But it's been cool to see them evolve.
Well, and a lot of counter moves too. You pick
Oh, yeah.
this up, I pick up that.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun, just seeing how the rosters have developed by the end of it. But going back to the playoff picture, we see the bracket there. Ollie, you like to keep this to yourself. You lost it last season, and it went to the Chapel Hill Haluches. But who gets hot? Who gets the playoff buff? Who's gonna make the run? Somebody's gonna do it. It's just who do we expect to? Who do y'all like to be the team that's gonna get hot right at the end of the season, or moving from maybe week 10 to the playoff run? 3 more games left. Nobody has an answer.
No, I'll go. I'll go. I'm trying to make sure that
Nobody
we get
gets
flipped
hot.
back over to the bracket. But,
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of hard to say that somebody's going to get hot because for most of the teams, they've been in pretty good form here at the end. Nobody's dropped, realistically, like their last 4 games, except I think Queen City.
Yeah,
So,
they
like,
get
since
so they
we
can get
made
buff.
the last video, I think all but one team has picked up a win. So it's hard to say that somebody's just coming out of nowhere and getting like super hot. For me, I think whoever wins Chapel Hill versus Memphis is likely to be the person at the end of the season that we say got hot right when they needed to. Especially if Memphis can pull it off. I think that creates a really interesting story for them. That I think we'll probably touch on more a bit later, but it's just like that's a hurdle that they've been trying to get over, and if they can get past that one, I'm willing to start believing that they'll start getting past the other hurdles and actually make a good run towards the end of this.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's kind of the game I'm watching the most, because I think whoever wins that has a really good chance of making a run to pick this whole thing up. Just because I feel like the top side of the bracket is a gauntlet, because there's a lot of the big restricteds are there. You got Kyogre, Calyrex Shadow, you got Zacian and Groudon all on that side of the bracket. So I think whoever can come out that side might be able to make a run. I think one of those 4 or 5 seeds, those mid-seed teams can do something really special. Not to say that the Charlotte Charizards or Nashville Ninetales can't, but I think that's the other playoff matchup. I'm like, yeah, we got to watch that one, because I can easily see one of those teams just pick that up and then get a huge amount of momentum and take it all the way. So
yeah, I mean, I think I'm kind of in agreement with both of y'all. I'm also really looking at the Memphis and Chapel Hill game, and kind of what could come out of that potential outcome, especially if Memphis picks up their win, the win against Chapel Hill there. and they can really just start building a lot of steam and momentum throughout there, I think it could be a really exciting side of the bracket to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all really just talking about the same two teams, which is, I mean, it's right. I mean, this is where Chapel Hill got hot last season.
Yeah.
They just made that playoff run all the way to the end. And looking at their last few games this season, they're putting in work. They're picking up big games, big wins. Just these crazy strats that are coming out. But I mean, you can't count out Memphis, who seems to finally be getting comfortable with their team, and they've got like those last couple pieces that they need. And I'd like to see a Memphis run.
I think it'd be a lot of fun if they did.
Yeah,
Quite
I
honestly.
agree. I agree.
Coming into the season, I had Memphis as a top 2 team. So
Oh.
after the draft, originally when we did all of our predictions and stuff, I said Zacian was going to take Memphis to the top of Johto and make it a good run. So coming back to it, I think they've got
dream's
a pretty
still alive.
decent. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Got a good
And
shot.
they had a chance to win that division going into the last week of the season. So I mean, it was have 3 teams there. It was like, it was just who beat who at the right point to pick it up point wise. So
All right, well, since we're already talking about some of the matchups and stuff, I kind of wanted to ask each of y'all, what are y'all's most hype potential matchups? We had touched on the Chapel Hill versus... Okay, I'll let you go first.
Yeah.
Me first. I want to see, I want Memphis to make the run, absolutely. But I want us to get a sun versus rain game, goddammit. I want Chapel Hill versus West Texas round.
I was going to say the
playoffs.
same thing.
I want to see it so bad. I want the big time weather war.
That's a
Grudge
nightmare
match.
Grudge match.
From week 1 of the season, man, and these rosters, his roster is a hell of a lot different than it was week 1. So if we get to do that again, it's going to be a mess. We got to both win, but sun versus rain. Y'all have fun getting to watch that. It's going to be pulling my hair out.
Oh, that's why I'm looking forward to it.
Into that.
All right, well, Caleb, what about you? What's your most hype potential matchup?
Not that one.
Okay. Well, understandable.
Honestly, if you look at Charlotte, they I know, Jacob, you really want to make a run, and to do that, you're gonna have to beat Ali, and then I think you're gonna have to get over Chris next, and then whoever's in the championship to make your run. I think you got a lot of really big hype matchups because it's the whole Cinderella story. Get your first big postseason dub with the title is obviously what you want. You got a team that can make a run to do it. So I think whatever you got going, we can get a good storyline out of and hop that up pretty easy, which I think is going to be a lot of fun, seeing what you're able to do.
I like your answer a lot.
Yeah, I figured you would.
I'm a slightly less big fan of your answer, but I liked part of it in there. So.
All right, Ali. Let's get
I'm kind of the same way. I like part of the answer. In a completely non-biased way. I'd love to see a Charlotte run to the finals. Love to see it.
Okay.
Charlotte Memphis the finals? Question mark.
Oh,
see,
that'd be fun.
That would be great. I'd love to see that. The only part about that I don't like is that Charlotte has to beat me to get there.
Fair point.
Round 1, no less.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, one and done playoffs suck, just so y'all know. I do it way too often.
But I mean, the 2 times we've played already, each one has been a 3-game banger. And it's like it's been different each time. It's gotten closer every single time, every single game. And it's entirely possible that you finally just turn it around, take the win on that, and make your run.
Well,
I mean, I'm hoping.
Yeah,
but
and the who gets hot. I want to go back to my point earlier, real quick. Jacob, you've played a lot better over the last 3 weeks. You've gotten. I feel like you're making big steps. So if there's somebody that's going to get that, I feel like you're going to be a team that's going to get hot, and you got the team that can really pull it off.
I'm really hoping.
Just because your play is really, really taking a whole new level. Yeah. Last time we played was a headache, man. I
God, the one
don't
time
know.
we played was a nightmare. I
Yeah.
felt like I had to use every ounce of my brain to win that one. So
Every matchup with you guys has been super, super tough and very frustrating to lose all of them because they have all been nail biters.
Hey, it's the growing pains, man.
It
Uh,
is.
you're about to be able to just take that next jump forward. That's typically how it works with just success and growth and stuff like that. From anything I've understood growing up playing sports and things like that, is when you're right there, it's real hard. But once you break through,
Yep.
it's gonna be a lot easier to continue that success.
Yep. I'm looking forward to it.
I've lost track of where we are in this discussion.
well, Ali's up next with his point that you just gave him a beautiful segue into.
Yeah, it kind of leads right in. I mean, we're just spending a lot of time talking about Charlotte's improvement throughout the season, but I mean, I think we've seen a lot from a lot of these other players. I mean, we've seen Chapel Hill just make their insane run
Oh yeah.
throughout the season. I already mentioned Memphis just finally getting used to their team, getting the pieces that they needed.
Mm-hmm.
You see Queen City, who's had a relatively strong inaugural season.
Oh yeah.
They haven't done great, but I mean, relative to anyone starting in their first season, they've done very well.
I mean, they're a missed leaf storm away from beating me in their second week of the season.
Right.
And so they've been right there. It's just a matter of breaking through, kind of thing, and learn. And I think there's a little bit of learning the ropes too for them. But I think they're right there. I don't like the fact that I'm having to play them first in the playoffs. I was really hoping not to have to play them for a third time, just because Calyrex Shadow is a menace and is really hard to game plan against. But like they've played really well. They've made a lot of improvements. They've had the best regular season of an expansion team, picking up 3 match wins. So I think there's a lot to be said there because we've been doing this for over a year and a half. We've played a lot of different seasons, used a lot of different Pokemon. So somebody to come in and just take 3 games says quite a bit. And then we've also had a lot of people pick up just 10 game wins within a series. 5 out of the 8 teams have done that, which is not an easy fact or easy thing to achieve either.
Right.
That's taking people to 3 games. If you've only won 4 series or 3 series, getting to 10 wins means you're picking up a lot of 3 game sets, which is good.
Yeah, and I think for me, like the cool part is I think we've even seen the legacy players grow quite a bit this season. Not even just the newer players, right? Like we've seen, Ali make this incredibly bold free agency move to just say, hey, I know I originally built my team around this restricted, but to be able to make a change like that in the middle of a season and adapt to it instantly and be able to play it and continue the success that they were already having without skipping a beat, that's huge. I think we've seen a lot of the creativity and stuff evolve in West Texas play. I think we've watched me go from the guy who's like free agency is a bit of a scam, just draft better, to hey, I'm going to use free agency because I drafted bad and I've got to fix this. And to deal with a constantly evolving team while playing through the season and still find the success that Toronto had, that in and of itself is a win for the season, regardless of whatever happens in playoffs, right? And I think we saw some real moments from JCJ that just sold us on there has been improvements in just the sheer understanding of the game and understanding some of the deeper level strategies. And I hate to bring it up, but it was most prominent in the win versus Nashville, right? When he just was like, I no, these swaps are coming. I'm just going to bonk you on your way in. You're not going to get away with this positioning nonsense against me. Well, is an elite level skill.
Yeah, and he made really good. He did the same thing when he played Memphis. I think the first time, like the week after, or something like that. It just he was able to punish those things, and I think that was really good. And it's a different style of play from him, but it's something that I think is really good. Makes the league a lot of fun when you got people playing at the top of their game as much as possible, kind of thing. And I think everybody's hit that point at some point or another within the season. It's just. Was it early? Was it late? Like Ali, you made that big change going to Calyrex Ice. and you did that with like 4 roster moves total, I think, something like that. It was a very small amount of moves to basically overhaul a big identity of your team. And doing that is not easy. Chris was doing that all season, making 2 moves a week, basically from week 2 on, and being able to get those pieces figured out. And then Jakob, you're over here taking the thwacky I took like in season 1 or season 2 and making it look epic. And I was never able to really get this in to catch any steam. And then picking up good Pokemon like getting the Magnezone and then getting Skarmory as well. I think identifying those in free agency was huge. And that we can go down a list for a lot of teams like Urshifu Rapid Strike leaving the Charlotte or the Chapel Hill Haluchas and picking that up for a Xurkitree was a huge free agency move that helped that team out a lot. And so just people not just getting better in the game, but like getting better at identifying how to improve their teams and what direction they want to go in the team has been awesome. It just made so many new layers and stuff. I think this season just I think because there's so many teams at 8 teams, it requires people to do a lot of homework on what they want and what they need. And because of that, it's just been so good.
It's almost as if in the back of all of this, there's been some sort of roster doctor just running around helping everybody make these insane roster moves.
I don't know who that might be. That's an unnamed source. It's a mythical man.
I mean, I don't even know that there is one, right? It's just, it's so crazy that all these teams have made such good and impactful roster moves this season. It's crazy.
They just got good connections.
Who knows? Who knows?
But we've all successfully dodged a bullet for the whole time. We've all known this point was coming, and I think it's time we talk about it unless anybody's got some final piece to make on that.
I know.
Johto had the most rock, paper, scissors shit we have ever seen in the league.
Finally get to talk about it.
Oh my gosh. So, we had our scissors. Let's start with rock. We had the rock team. We had Groudon.
Yeah.
Rock beats Scissors. Scissors was the Zacian team. That was Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
The Chapel Hill Haluchas 4-0'd Memphis in the regular season. Rock beats Scissors, but Scissors beats Paper. Paper was Toronto. They were not close games. Okay, we tried really hard to make them close. They really weren't. It was an easy-looking 4-0 from Memphis. I tried, I promise. But easy sweeps. And then Paper beats Rock. Toronto 4-0'd Chapel Hill in not particularly as dominant fashion, but pretty controlledly. And I mean, it's the most rock, paper, scissors shenanigans we have ever seen. What was y'all's thoughts on that as the outsiders to the division?
Glad it wasn't mine.
That.
But in all seriousness, no, I think that proved that the non-divisional games mattered just enough. Because we had, 14, 15, 13, 11? And the difference being who picked up one more non-divisional game. I think that's how that fell. And so, yeah, everybody got 6 points from each other in their own way. And then everybody whooped up on Jersey City. Poor guys just taking the L, having a rough time there. But I just think that it proved that your whole schedule matters. And try not to get swept also, I think is another big thing there too.
Yeah.
As easy as that is to say, it's hard. It's hard to do it, and proves that, sweeping can keep you in it, in this weird dynamic we didn't think would ever happen.
Yeah. It was a rule that was kind of on the fringe for whenever y'all were deciding the rules for the whole point system and divisional system and all that. But hey, I mean, it's been definitely the most impactful and probably one of the best rules you guys have put in. So props to y'all. Good job.
Very nice.
It's a long conversation.
Yeah, very long.
Several days trying to figure that out going into this season. It felt like. And the interesting thing about that Johto thing is it still is your 4th straight division title.
Yeah, we did it. It didn't look great on draft day, not getting to draft until 50 something, but we used free agency to cover up for it and realized some of the crap that we're like, how did anyone just leave that sitting there, let alone somebody that had the whole draft to just stare at it like, what's still up, what's still up, what's still up.
It's crazy.
Botched.
It's crazy what gets slips through the cracks.
True.
But Ali, your thoughts?
I mean, it was nice to just kind of like sit back, watch it unfold, and like just kind of dodge all of it on our in our division.
Yeah.
But I mean, Jetta has been a mess. We saw it this season. We saw it last season, where division title fringed on one game out of like 8 last season, 10 this season. It's a wild ride to get there.
Well, and that same division did that 2 seasons in a row, basically. I mean,
Yeah.
a little bit different teams, but whoever had Toronto and
exact
Chapel
same
Hill.
teams.
Oh, yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Well, Jersey City was.
Nope.
On,
Exact same teams.
Exact same.
Wow.
Oh.
All right.
It's almost like the people that picked the divisions.
Want to do it again?
Did that.
Maybe.
I don't know about
Yeah.
wanted to, but that's what they ended up with. This time they saved West Texas for last.
What was the draft day strategy there, Jacob? You were one of the people deciding all that stuff.
Yeah, have fun.
Grudge match.
No, never.
No,
never.
He got handed West Texas. Nobody drafted that.
That's true. Was the last pick.
I'm fine with that. I was first pick last time.
Yep.
That was out of spite.
It was out of spite.
I was like,
exactly
hey,
what
that's
that
not,
was.
not cool. Not cool. No, that's fine.
All right. To bring it back to the playoff discussion,
Yeah.
boys. I wanted to ask y'all, and Caleb, we'll start with you. I wanted to ask y'all, what were y'all's dark horse predictions going into the playoffs?
Well, we haven't got to my playoff bracket yet, but I think Memphis is the team. They're a team that can make a run. They can do it. They got Zacian. They have Whimsicott. I don't know if you need to bring 2 more Pokemon or not. Those 2 are scary on their own. So if they get those in the right spot, I think those 2 can basically carry them to a finals appearance, maybe pick up the W there. So
Yeah, I definitely completely agree. Those 2 alone are just stupid scary.
I mean, they've got Volcarona just in case.
True.
That's
Added a little bit of annoyance.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, let's get your thoughts on this.
Well, it's an interesting question because to me, a dark horse is a team that you don't really like expect to win, and so I don't think you can pick, Chapel Hill or Memphis realistically. Both of those are teams that we can see winning pretty realistically. And to look at the Nashville-Charlotte game and say, oh yeah, one of these is an underdog, you're goofy, shut up. No, that is just an insane matchup, right? So for me, if it's going to be a dark horse and I'm not going to count myself out, it's got to be QCQ, right? Partially just by definition, but also we've seen the pieces start to come together there, right? And I mean,
That's just wrong.
you're welcome. You can't all be this good looking and funny. Somebody's got to do it.
Okay.
But jokes. Cameras are here. Jokes. But no, I mean, in full seriousness, I think QCQ really does have what they need in the tank. I'm not trying to be mean. We've seen West Texas kind of fumble the last couple weeks a little bit.
That is what we do.
Yep, that is. I mean, we've seen West Texas have incredibly dominant seasons, go to playoffs, and then completely lose their mind. It's happened
that
before.
Is our MO. That is our
But
MO.
I mean, I think there really are the tools and pieces necessary to make a run. I think it will be an incredibly hard run if they're going to do it. But I think their hardest 2 matchups are on the other side of the bracket. I think they've got the tools to deal with the stuff that's right in front of them. And I mean, they've really only just got 3 series left to win, and 3 wins, stringing that together when you've had a rough season, doesn't sound quite as hard as when you've had an incredibly dominant season and you're forced to keep that up. I think they've also played really consistently and safely throughout the season, and if they just open up one of the hinges and just go a little bit loose with it, I think they might be able to surprise some people and pick up some incredibly... I don't know about incredibly shocking wins, but just like definitely surprising ones given how their season's gone.
Well, they got a strong team too. I think that's part of what you need to make your run. They got the right stuff at the top end to make it work, and they got a Galissapod in Tier 3 that's been dominant. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. For sure. Surprisingly dominant at that.
yeah,
Very fun to watch. But Ollie, let's get your thoughts on the dark horse.
I'm gonna have to agree with Chris here. QCQ does have the tools they need. They finally put together a couple roster moves to kind of like band-aid up those little weaknesses on their team. But I mean, it's possible for them to make a run. I think after having a few like disappointing games, but also having a couple of great wins, they're getting into playoff mode, and I think they're getting ready to make a run. I mean, Cali Shadow doesn't have to see a Moltres Umbreon team until the finals.
Very true.
Facts.
So yeah, I mean, exactly what you said there. Hard matchups are on the other side of the bracket. So it's possible.
It is possible. Anything's possible with Cali.
Literal dark horse.
Yep. I wasn't gonna do it. I said I was gonna do it, but then I was like, nope.
I
I'm gonna
got
let
you.
somebody else.
I did
Thank
it.
you.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go.
I didn't want to be that guy. So thanks for taking that bullet. I just made that other joke previously, so hey.
Yeah. Can't use all your material in one go, right?
Exactly.
True.
But Ali, it's your turn.
My turn.
Yeah. I had to write it down on my notebook paper, but I'm halfway lost on this deal.
Yeah. Ali's up.
Yeah. I mean, we've been talking about all these restricteds. We just spent I don't know how long talking about that Cali Shadow and the Zacian just now. But yeah, exactly. I mean, what I've noticed kind of going through this season is with the presence of these restricteds showing up to just about every single game of every single series the whole season, is we don't get to see those like lower tier Pokemon shine as much. Which, I mean, I'm pretty sure I've said this in previous videos and you guys have heard me say it a lot, was I love those tier 3s. I want to see them shine. I want to see them make their surprises. It's a lot of fun to see those lower tier Pokemon at work, and you can only really see them in a draft league setting. But I mean, where they don't really get their full potential here, what do you guys think have been like these shining stars of the lower tiers?
Hippopotas.
Skarmory.
Yeah, those are y'all's.
Turtonator. Bomb Snout.
I've loved Mantine. Honestly, Mantine's been my favorite little.
That's been good.
I like that thing. It and Kyogre, the water buddies. It's been fun using those two together. But like, you got to use Drampa, and like, I was the only person who's ever used it. You got to use it this season, and it's just kind of fun getting to see that one. It's the Dragon Grandpa. The Boomer in the group didn't get to use it. Add that to the total, I guess. I don't know if that counts.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, okay. There we go. But I mean, you got to use your favorite Luxray too. Like Luxray is one of your favorite tier 3s. Chris had a favorite tier 3 in Salazzle that was so good that we're saying that's tier 2. I think he's going to petition that decision and move it back down next season as commissioner.
Absolutely petitioning.
I
did draft it though.
Yeah.
Well, and my favorite tier 3 got moved up to tier 2. That Frostlass.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite tier 4 is a tier 1.
Okay, that's because we made a mistake. That was not a tier 4.
That was definitely a tier 4. We should put it back. But like Galarian Mr. Mime, Chapel Hill showed that it's really good. They used it again. It's still really good. Now, is it as flashy this season? Probably not. But I think it's because they executed so well with it. But in this season, they've been able to still do their thing with it. It's been able to be this Eevee-like monster if it wants to be. Freeze dry hurts, especially if you have a water type restricted like I do. And it's been such a good one. Maractus is there. We haven't seen it a lot. I feel like playoffs might be where it shines.
Pocket pick.
Counterpoint.
Pocket pick.
We're all walking around something here.
Oh,
bug types have been huge this season. We have
Yes.
never seen bug types be good, and then all of a sudden this season, every single bug type just started going crazy. I had to go pick up a bug type because I was trying to get in on the hype. right? My last roster move of the season was going to get Galvantula. Or no, it was the next to last was going to get Galvantula.
It was in the same week.
Yeah, same week. But Araquanid, stellar performances consistently. Galissapod, stellar performances consistently.
KOs like crazy.
Escavalier
Yup.
may not have had the best season, but when it showed up, it did stuff. And
Got the dub.
exactly. It put in the work that it needed to from that tier 2 slot. So, like, for me, the unsung heroes this was the season of the bug types. And that's just so cool and fun to me because it's just something that we never really explore much in the draft league setting. And to see them do so much this season all at once with a bunch of different ones was so cool.
Well, it's like water bug has been like the big one too. And like Volcarona got picked up at the end, and I think it's really solid as well. But like,
Galvantula's pretty good too.
Yeah, Galvantula too. Yeah. Like I used Crustle a few seasons back, but I think that's only like it and Durant are like the two that notable bug types that really ever saw some significant use, if I remember.
Yeah.
Something
like that.
Selgor.
Yes.
Was one.
Selgor.
But it didn't get used this season, which is kind of crazy, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, it might show back up in Season 9. I bet it does. But, like, the bug types, those are the three big ones that we've had before. Now we had literally doubled the list this season from what you just mentioned, Chris. So it's been cool. It's been cool to see it because it's the type that gets slept on. A lot of people say it's the worst type, but for some reason, it just works for this one. I don't know.
Yeah.
Bugs.
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 That's my whole argument. Bugs.
I mean, it was a good one.
Yeah.
Bugs have been going brazy.
Yeah, but Jacob, you haven't given us your thoughts on these low tiers. What?
I mean, Skarmory, dude.
Okay.
Skarmory's going crazy. No, honestly, all the lower tiers this season have been really, well, not all of them, but a good bit of them have been really fun to watch. Seeing like Thwacky and Toxicroak and stuff for like fake out pressure and all that. Getting the pressure of stuff like Storm Drain on Maractus to completely counter like Kyogre and other restricted or what's the word I'm looking for? Legend tier.
Yeah.
Legend tier threats like Suicune or Kyogre or something like that. It's just been really fun to see the adaptations kind of come out in the lower tiers, even though it has been such a top heavy season in the restricted and, legends and tier 1s.
Yeah.
I think everybody has their favorite tier 3 from their squad, and that's like their comfort one to bring.
Yeah.
And like you're talking, you mentioned Thwacky just fake out pressure. That was a crap ton of damage when you grassy glided glowed whatever the terminology is into a Kyogre. Like it was full health and it's like 5 HP and it's Eviolite Thwacky doing the damage. Yep. It's not Rillaboom, it's just Thwacky.
Thwacky's out here, man.
I know, it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
I just think everybody's had some success with their tier 3s. Everybody has their comfort tier 3. I think those comfort tier 3s are going to really be important for their playoff runs and how they synergize with the team. A lot of these guys have had their success because they have had their role within the team, and having a role within the team with these lower tier Pokemon is what makes them really do their thing. And if they don't have that, it's really hard to use them and really hard to want to use them. So finding those guys in free agency is also really important. And I think a lot of these guys were free agent pickups at one point, and they've probably might be a comfort pick in future draft seasons after this.
Yeah,
I agree.
But this does kind of vaguely segue me into the next point that I think we need to discuss is we've seen throughout the season, restricteds have shown up a lot. Make no mistake, but we've definitely seen teams shy away from them, especially the ones that we were kind of pointing our fingers at and calling spammers at the beginning of the seasons have really worked to make it so their team is not just restricted reliant. And like we've seen arguably two of the teams most reliant on their restricted in Memphis and Queen City move away from those in the final weeks of this season, with Memphis just not even bringing one to bonk the crap out of their division winners Toronto, and doing it with Rhydon Altaria saying, hey, look, my tier 4s beat you. What are you going to do about it?
That was crazy.
I was upset. But with all of that being said, do you think that the restricteds will be the most impactful Pokemon in this postseason? Do you think that most of this will be determined by who's using their restricteds well and who's getting them into good positions? Or do you think it will come down more to people answering restricteds, or even possibly seeing an entire series with no restricted in it?
That's a tough question, honestly.
I think, honestly, the majority of what it's going to come down to for a lot of these matchups is how people are preparing around the restricteds, because we can easily see a lot of mind games of, well, do they even bring the restricted? Do I have to worry about that? Are they going to set up like their tier ones or maybe a legend tier Pokemon to just be their sweeper, be their main carry? And then I wasn't prepared for that. My whole team is just countered because I can't beat that. That starts to add on to the mind game layers. And we've already, each matchup, every team has already played each other twice. We're going to have a lot of prior knowledge going into it, and some maybe interesting new factors, maybe one or two free agency moves that we hadn't seen before for teams. But I think it's not necessarily going to matter specifically on the restricted and restricted play. It's going to be what we see the team building come down to. That's going to be a lot of the deciding factor for these series.
Season 5, Ollie and I played in a playoff matchup, and in prep, I was like, I don't think Entei really comes. And Entei is the reason he won and got to the finals and played Chris in the finals, because I didn't have an answer for it. And so I think having that Pokemon is really important. But I think part of that is, in this playoff deal, I think it's a really bold call if you neglect the restricted or don't even really, I guess, play your restricted, because there's so much of a power curve there. And a lot of these teams are built around that restricted, and I'm not gonna say it's wrong if you don't use it in the playoffs. I just think that it's a really uphill battle, and if you're not bringing your restricted, it's probably because it's either strictly countered or you just don't like what you're trying to do with the other 5 members of your team with it. And I think that's hard to place. That's the prep thing that Jakob's talking about, but I think restricteds are going to be big in the playoffs because that was probably your first pick of the draft. You want to see it through with them to get your championship run in, more often than not.
Says the guy who picked his third.
I had 3 picks in the first 2 rounds, so all
cheater.
Ollie.
I mean, going into playoffs, I think a lot of team diversity is really what plays in here. And it's like going through the regular season. You have your team diversity. You have a whole set of 13. And you're like, okay, I can cover this. I can cover this. I counter this Pokemon. I don't counter this one. But trying to translate that from your set of 13 into a team of 6. And trying not to, like... You want to be able to answer as much as you can without kind of like jack of all trades, master of none. You're not really answering anything at all by trying to answer every single thing. And I mean, some teams have relied a lot more on their restricted, some have not. Like me personally, a lot of my success came from that Incarnate Lando out of my legend slot, even though I swapped the restricted halfway through the season. But, I mean, some teams play off of it, some teams don't. And you kind of have to be ready for, are they going to play around their restricted or are they going to play around something completely different? And you just kind of have to be ready for it. A lot more prep goes into these postseason matches than the regular season ones.
Or you would hope so.
I think for me, one aspect of it is how much do you value not having to bring a tier 4 in the matchup will probably go a long way in whether or not a restricted needs to come, because sometimes you've got Pokemon competing for items, especially when you need to bring a tier 4 and you're one of these like double Eviolite teams. Or, if you're just like, for me, right, my tier 4s are, do I really need a fake out from Sock or something with Sturdy that I can make use of to do something like that? if not, if I have to bring a tier 4, it's Hippopotas, and if I'm not bringing Excadrill, that feels kind of bad. It negates focus sashes, things like that. So it's like, do you need a tier 4? Do you gain some value from not bringing that outweighs the value of bringing your restricted in this matchup? And I think that's going to also be a huge factor in people bringing them or not. But I think going back to something that Jakob was saying at the beginning of all this is just like, it's such a bold call to not bring your restricted, to say this is the pièce de résistance to the power curve. This is the big unit on my team. This is what I theoretically was supposed to have been built around. Mm-hmm. And I don't need it for my playoffs. I will beat you with my tier 4s is a bold statement.
Takes a good sized pair of huevos to do that.
Exactly. So I think we'll end up seeing restricteds in more games than we have percentage wise in the regular season, just because of that mental hurdle of having to get over, like, as a bold call to not bring the restrict. Am I?
And it may be the right play, but
yeah, it absolutely could be right
to do that. Which makes me ask this question: is like, what's the most impactful Pokemon you think, or the most OP Pokemon that's going to come out of this playoff run, either by team or just overall? Anybody have any guesses there?
I'll go down the list by team.
Oh, there you go. I like it. Let's do it.
Yeah. All right, let's start at the bottom. I think for Queen City to go crazy, it has to come from Calyrex Shadow. That Pokemon has to pop off. Right. I think from JCJ, it's either got to be this Dracovish or it's got to be this Glacier. And I think at this point, everybody's ready for the Dracovish. I think when you're coming up, you're saying, okay, how do I stop Dracovish if Trick Room's up? Because they're pretty good at getting that up. And how do I stop it if Talonflame hits that priority Tailwind, or how do I stop that? So it's more on the Glacier for me. I think if they're going to go crazy, Glacier is going to have a big part of doing that. Or it'll be Rayquaza finally going off, but I think we've seen it enough times not doing stuff this season that it's got to be Glacier. Yeah. On Charlotte, I think it comes down to probably their use of Cinderace. Can they make Cinderace be the monster of seasons old that's made everybody regret it being legal? Or will Cinderace kind of fall flat, be in this libero nightmare of what type should I be right now, and get caught in bad places? I think their use of Cinderace will be the most impactful, and if they're going to go crazy, that's going to be a big part of it. I think one of these legends has to step up and help Zacian from Memphis. And for me, that's going to fall down on the Urshifu Rapid Strike. We have seen that in previous seasons. Step up and deliver some big hits and catch teams off guard with the different types of moves that it can have, with the different types of items that it uses effectively, and how bulky it can be. Exactly, and you cannot protect in front of it. Alex, you can't protect in front of Urshifus.
Rule number 1.
Yeah. I think for Chapel Hill to have the end of season run that we're all kind of rooting for a little bit until it comes to being against us, I think it's got to be the interchangeability between is it an Entei team this week or a Xurkitree team this week? And for me, the big damage, the big pop-off performances have got to come from this Xurkitree, because when Xurkitree is the important Pokemon, it is a crux in them needing to get the win. Xurkitree is what patches up their harder matchups, and so that's why I'm going to call Xurkitree the most impactful there. For Nashville, I think it comes down to the Umbreon. I'm finally getting out of the upper tiers. I think Umbreon has got to show up and be the menace that it was born to be. I think it has got to force people to play around that and find ways to deal with it before it just makes your whole team irrelevant. So I'm excited to see if Umbreon goes crazy. I think Excadrill's got to do it for Toronto. I think it's a piece that we've seen have the most success on the team realistically throughout the season. You could argue Tapu Fini, but I think people have come to their senses and realized I have to be as ready for Fini as I am for Mewtwo. Yeah. So I think a lot of the burden's going to come onto Excadrill's shoulders. And I think for West Texas, it is going to come down to, will Regieleki be a problem? or are teams ready to stop it? So I'm going to put the burden on Regieleki for that team.
That's a lot of in-depth stuff right there.
Analysis guy, done.
Yeah. Honestly, there's a lot of good Pokemon mentioned in that list. And I'm not going to go team by team here. But I think for teams to have success, it's going to have to come from something they're very familiar with, which Queen City, it's going to be that Calyrex Shadow, getting it in the right position, getting that the special attack boost, and avoiding the double 4 times effective, super effective moves is going to be the key for them. And if they're going to make a run, it's going to be through Calyrex Shadow, like you said, Chris. And realistically, I think the Pokemon that's going to be the most impactful here is going to be how do you support. So I would not necessarily a Pokemon, but a role as your supportive roles are going to be what probably makes or breaks a lot of these teams. Did you give your carry for the week, if it's Kyogre, if it's Regieleki, or if it's, Cinderace, like, are you giving it the proper support to live hits via screens? Are you giving it the right helping hand damage to get the right rolls for things? And just stuff like that. It's the right supportive pieces, I think, is going to be what's going to be most impactful for a lot of these teams in making their runs.
That's fair. I think y'all have been skirting around this question, and it's supposed to be the most impactful Pokemon of the playoffs.
Okay.
I'm saying
I left it vague, so
I'm saying it is specifically Kyogre.
Oh.
You have to always prepare for Kyogre. You have to always play around Kyogre. If it doesn't show
on the
up,
bottom side of the bracket.
What's up?
Just even on the bottom side of the bracket.
No, I mean, if I'm gonna meet you in finals, I gotta prepare for the Kyogre, man.
Not if QCQ deals with it.
Hey, if that happens, I'll take it.
Away.
Please QCQ, please take it. I mean, it sets up the rain. It's got ridiculous damage. It's got a fairly good amount of bulk that it could potentially do if it wants to do like an assault vest set or something like that. It's just such a flexible monster that is... It feels like it's always meta in every season that it's available in. It's just such a good Pokemon. I think it has to be the most impactful Pokemon for the playoffs.
And one of the best restricteds ever from Generation 3. It's my favorite. So I was happy to get to use that one. Ali, though, I want to hear your thoughts here. Are you as matter of fact as Jakob was in saying it is this Pokemon, or do you want to be like Chris and I and be like it's all of them? Or that was
okay. You can say me too. It's fine.
Got something similar. Here's a word some of you might like to hear, might not like to hear. Geomancy.
Oh wait, that's me.
Y'all, all three of y'all get to deal with that.
Hey, that's me.
If I see it, it's in the championship only, and then
Ali, please. I don't want to deal with it again.
Grim Day though is just as bad.
Is it just as bad?
And there's two.
I think the multi-boost aspect of it's kind of worse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not just multi-boost. +2 to all those stats.
Yeah.
Geomancy go bear.
I should have drafted that. And I should have just did that.
Yeah, I won the regular season with a +35 differential. I should have picked something else. This didn't really work out for me.
I don't want to. I hate playing.
Fuck off. Just no. No. Nope.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. I mean, it's that move, and it's like if you see Geomancy, your chances of winning just drop.
Yeah.
Unless you find a way to stop it.
Topsy-turvy time, baby.
Yeah, I mean, we've got Topsy-Turvy. We've got my favorite way of dealing with it. Let it go fast and just hit Trick Room.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you've got to find a way to deal with it either before it hits that Geomancy or you find a way to stop Geomancy in its tracks.
Just steal the item, Forehead. Save one trick incoming.
Just taunt it, Forehead.
Yeah, just taunt it, Forehead. Oh, but why do that when you can just steal the item and prevent the switch out? Come on now.
There you go.
That's fair.
It's
just trick and switcheroo strats. Come on.
All
Clucky
6
users.
Pokemon.
Yeah.
Just just be gentle to all of us, Jacob. Be like, no, I'm not gonna use that. Just tell us that strat's out. We used enough in the season. It was fun, but like, guys, this doesn't feel very fair. I'm just gonna let even the playing field by not.
Yeah, getting sixth place didn't feel like I was being very fair to you guys.
Yeah.
It's only physical Xerneas from here on out.
There we go. Thank you very much.
I'm only geomancing for the speed boost, I promise.
Yeah.
It's like Tailwind.
Yeah.
But it's permanent. It's kind of
paralyzing for speed control.
Yeah. So we've talked enough about these Pokemon. We've talked a good bit about this playoff bracket, but there's something that we all did before this started, and that is make some predictions. And we spun to see who got their crappy predictions read off first, and I lost that. So, without any further ado, let's dive into these brackets. We're going to let the person whose bracket it is try and defend it first, and then we'll let everybody get their shot at them if they want to have one. So, me
I
first.
Like this one.
I'm glad you do.
Nothing against it.
So, I'm going to start on the left side, move to the right side. My hands were backwards because cameras. But so I've got the West Texas Wingles over the Queen City Quagsires. It's the 1 versus 8. It's hard not to call the 1 seed to win that. It's just hard to. Love to see it happen, but it's gonna be hard.
No pressure.
And then I've got the rock paper scissors game holding up here. I think that it's very hard for Memphis to do what they want to do against the Chapel Hill team. I think there have been a lot of good reads in that matchup coming from Chapel Hill throughout the season, so I think Chapel Hill's got their number. And so Chapel Hill wins there. And then moving over to the right side, I've got Charlotte pulling off the minor upset versus Nashville. I think those games have been close, and it would not surprise me at all to see Nashville take that, but I think Charlotte's just been heating up and playing just a little bit better every time we see him hit the field. And I think after their game versus West Texas Wingles, that's really what sold me on I think they can do this. And so I've got them progressing all the way to the finals here. Not to be, forgotten, I do have Toronto winning that first round. I think it's a pretty favorable matchup. There's just a couple of Pokemon that are real hard to deal with for the Jersey City team on my team. So I've got me progressing, and then I take the L to Charlotte. Just because I don't know how I won it the first time, if we're being completely honest. It was way too hard, and like I said, Excadrill's going to have to step up to make these playoffs work. And so that's probably whose shoulders that matchup falls on. But then, on the other side, Sun versus Rain. Historically, Rain's been the better weather. Sun teams with Venusaur are cute and everything, but there's no Venusaur on that Sun team.
So glad.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
So I've got West Texas picking that one up in what I'm sure will be the game of the season if it happens. And then I've got West Texas just getting it done the way they have consistently throughout the past. It would not surprise me if we see that again, to see it go the other way. It almost did when the two of y'all played in week 9.
Yep.
So coin flip there. I've just taken the easy prediction on that one and saying, history will prevail. Yes, good. So let me hear it. What's wrong with my bracket?
Oh, it's perfect. Wonderful.
No. I have a big issue with that one.
Yeah?
Yeah, I didn't win.
Oh, okay. Well,
you get your first playoff appearance in the championship,
Okay.
I lost my first championship game. It's just...
But you're washed. I'm not you.
Says the guy who's 0-7.
Hey, he's beatable.
It's true. It's true. You are very beatable.
Caleb reached for that humble button real fast.
Yeah, for real.
Oh, is that an attitude I detect? Bonk.
Yeah,
it's okay. If I see you in the finals, you'll lose.
Okay.
Bold call.
We'll see. Bold
call.
I kind of want that to happen now.
We'll see.
I'd love to give you a fat 8 like the first time we played.
Won't happen.
Oh, that's a big call out. But
that was
Ali, any complaints about this bracket before we progress?
I mean, just a little bit.
You're not beating me.
Yeah. I mean, I said I wouldn't be surprised if you're wrong there, but I think I picked Toronto. I'm kidding. But speaking of people picking Toronto, let's see if Jakob did, because your bracket is next on the chopping block.
So funny thing about this, it's basically the exact same, except I picked the right answer and I'm winning.
Oh, okay.
What a surprise you pick yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I can't count myself out, but I have, much like Chris, I have the same matchups winning, the West Texas beating Queen City and so on and so forth. And I mean, I think Chris touched on all the points fairly well. Don't think we need to go back over that too much, but I can't count myself out. It's not going to be, I mean, it might be a 08 for you, Caleb, if we meet in the finals, but I'm pretty confident.
Okay, I'm feeling left out of the old married couple fight. That's supposed to be me. Hey, you back on.
I will say, I am very much looking forward to facing you in semifinals, Chris. I think that will be very fun.
For you, maybe.
The one thing about your prediction, Jakob, is it means you get to beat Ali for the first time ever, you get to beat Chris for the first time ever, and you get to beat me for the first time ever.
Yep.
So
in a regular season.
Yeah,
in a regular
Cinderella
season.
run. The Cinderella run, yeah.
It would be the story of the draft league.
Yes, sir.
For Chapel Hill to make specifically this run through the playoffs. So, if nothing else, it will make for a great headline on the newspaper that we'll never write about this because nobody cares because it's our draft league. But
maybe you, the viewer at home, might. I don't know.
Maybe you do. Do you? I'm staring into my camera. They can't see that. But we've got another bracket. A possibly spicier bracket. I sure hope it's spicier. Let's take a look at what Caleb has given us.
Yeah, I decided to be humble at the last minute when the graphics were being made. I'm not gonna not pick myself, but I think in another alternative reality, this can happen.
Okay.
All right.
I like. I get to play Queen City. That's going to be tough. I do think we can pull that one off. Like 3 games 1, 3 games 2, maybe. 3 games 1 feels about right. Kind of figure out what's going on. Hopefully we can finish that one off. We do get to see Memphis play the Chapel Hill Haluches, and we know Chapel Hill has won all the regular season games. Well, this is the playoffs. Things change. People adapt. Memphis has seen how they've been beat twice. They're going to figure it out. I think they're going to be able to pull it off. So they're going to move on to the finals, flip the script in that series finally. And going back to Nashville and Charlotte, Jakob, I think
it's okay. You hate me.
Yeah, you got me riled up now.
Now I stand behind this even more than I did earlier.
Nashville, I think, can pull this off. They have a really tough team to play. In week 10, it was really hard for me to deal with. Matter of fact, I got beat by it. And so I think Nashville pulls this off. I think it's a 5-game set. Nashville wins 3-2. The only one I don't really think is going to be very close is the Toronto versus JCJ game. I know JCJ has been a headache for Toronto for many, many seasons, but Toronto picks this one up probably 3-0. Mainly just because I think it's just team difference. And unfortunately, Alex has just been having a hard time getting things probably done for the season. But I think he can give him trouble, but I think Toronto and what Chris can do picks that up. So moving on to the semifinals, I have myself playing Memphis. Zacian, I don't know if y'all know, is a really difficult restricted to play against. I think Memphis actually has a way to pull it off. When I played them, if it wasn't in the regular season, I played them, and if it wasn't for Bronzong, they would have won that series. And I mean that's the honest truth of it all. It was a sweep, but it sure as heck didn't feel like a sweep. So I think Memphis can pick that one up. And so Nashville and Toronto. I like Toronto's matchup into Nashville on paper. So we're going to kind of run with that, bringing the Johto teams that were battling it out for a division title back in the championship with Toronto and Memphis. But we're going to keep the rock, paper, scissors in reverse going, and Toronto picks this one up. And gets their third championship. Yep. So they'll have the overall championship total with this prediction, but I think it would be kind of cool seeing the rock, paper, scissors script flip, and would be just kind of be fun to see happen.
This would also be funny almost exclusively for betting the entire farm on winning last season and screwing over this season.
And winning.
Just to show up, not
to
pick
win, yep.
until 50th and then actually win the whole thing. That would be... I would be as annoyed as I would be happy for probably about a whole solid hour after I finished the high of winning. It would just be an hour of like, why did I even try last season with all these trades and stuff? If this is the recipes, you just swap out your whole team.
Just
But-
vibe.
Just vibe. Just vibe and roster move. Does it make sense? No, but it's a vibe. Do it.
It can work. It can work.
Exactly.
Exactly. Well, we got one last bracket to roast. And it's another
Yeah, we do.
self-picker. You self-picker.
All right. We're gonna have to take a look through every single video we made for season 7.
Oh,
Count the amount of times I said I'm not gonna bet against myself.
I'm
Gonna-
gonna guess at 300.
Once.
Something like that between
least.
both of those.
Oh, wait.
he said it like every 5 minutes almost.
Every
Something
single
like
prediction. Every
Yeah.
single one.
And was I
I guess it
wrong?
was-
Yes.
Was I wrong in almost
Very.
all those predictions?
Very.
Absolutely.
Did it stop him?
No.
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 Not once.
Not even a little bit. But yes, your
Um,
bracket. Walk us through this.
Got a bracket here.
Yep.
Yeah, going from the left, we got West Texas beating Queen City. It's kind of been the same prediction, but I mean, it is one missed leaf storm away.
One missed leaf storm
One
away.
missed sleeps through away.
Yeah, and then we have the rock paper scissors holding strong over here. We got Chapel Hill taking the win over Memphis. I mean, it's gonna be a treat of a match to watch, but I think Chapel Hill takes it there.
Wouldn't be surprised. They
Um,
got a lot of ways to do it.
And we've got the good old Charlotte Nashville game. Always a treat.
You said next season.
Hey, I mean, it took me 6 seasons to get my redemption arc. Got my Cinderella story done.
True.
He did. He did.
Might
I
have
can
to
do it
wait one
once.
more.
Oh, well, okay.
And then, we've got Toronto beating Jersey. It's gonna be interesting to watch. We see Toronto's damage, the unstoppable force versus the immovable object Corsola.
I hate that thing so much. I hate it so much. He brings
If
it just to
Corsola does
tilt
his
me.
thing, that's how Jersey City wins that series. I think. If it doesn't, Toronto. So
We'll see what happens there.
In before Gloucester.
But yeah, so moving on to those semifinals, I actually have Chapel Hill winning the matchup versus West Texas. I mean, it's the whole sun versus rain. Rain does have the advantage there, but I think Chapel Hill can play around it. And it's a season 7 finals round 2.
True.
So that's my prediction there. And then I have Nashville taking the win over Toronto because, I won't say it again, but these
Bold.
matchups have always been a mess.
The Ho and Hoedown Throwdown, as it was canonically referred to for many a year.
As it was. I mean, we played the very first game of the season where we both had completely different teams
Yup.
and no understanding of how Series 10 is going to work in the draft league.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Just, missed meteor beams and crit energy balls,
Manifesting crits.
manifesting crits.
and
You
miss-
just, I'm just gonna manifest some more, and it's just gonna be over for you. But it's fine.
Just
Continue.
going to be over from there. I dropped the crate early. We're fine.
Can't miss meteor
off
beam
the
if you
team.
don't hit it.
Exactly.
True.
That's right.
Then we've got that finals. I haven't done it yet. We've only played each other twice, but I've lost both series against Chapel Hill. But, you guys know the line.
I'm tired of you. I'm so tired. Why did we save you for last? This was a mistake. I should have gotten this over with first. Come on now. Somebody tell the wheel to do better. But speaking of doing better, we'll try and do better next time. But for now, that's going to wrap this up for us. We've been at this for a good while. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this more in-depth look at things. If this wasn't your cup of tea, we've got more of a hardline facts, stats about the season video coming out to follow this one. So stay tuned and look out for that. But a couple big shouts out before we move on. Big shout out to myself and for Jakob for getting these graphics put together once again for these videos. A lot of time and effort goes into that, so hopefully you guys like them. Big shout out to the casting crew here today. Myself, Jookeb, Caleb the Seagull, and young hipster brown kid Ali over here delivering you the content once more. Anything you guys would like to say before we round this all out?
This one was a lot of fun. Just kind of talking about it, looking at everything. Y'all have some interesting predictions, I have to say. I don't know why you just wouldn't pick me to win, but
You didn't.
I didn't. I gotta go.
That's true.
I gotta go prove everybody wrong. I like that. So
Including yourself.
Thanks for the fuel, guys.
I picked you. You're not proving everybody. I picked
Okay,
you.
I gotta prove these two yahoos.
Yahoo as an
old,
insult
man.
boomer counter, I think.
Yeah, yep, exactly.
That's
Okay.
one more. That's
We're
one
putting
more.
one on the boomer counter,
Alright.
and you're getting washed.
All right. Any other closing comments?
Hopefully we're at least good background noise for whoever watches this.
Maybe it'll put you to sleep.
Hopefully, I probably would.
The-
This is part of that.
the
I just got a little tired
nighttime,
myself.
sleep routine or whatever.
Something like whatever you just said. Jacob, anything, please.
Something that's going to be way better than that.
Caleb,
Please.
you're muted. Stop.
Okay.
You know what? Let's just get out of here, guys. Good lunch.
This descended into chaos real fast.
Have fruit.
And don't forget.
Please dap your refs. Special thanks to the other boys in the league. We've got Alex Remy Lamb, Parker Daddy Wop, John Morpheus Moore, and Ham. Thank you guys so much for everything that you guys do. And to you guys at home, feel free to catch us on Twitch or YouTube for the next one. We'll see y'all then. Jesus.
Good night.
See,
Bye bye.
we almost made it to the end.